Good evening, welcome to the February 3rd Clifton Park Town Board meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Teresa, if you'll call the roll.
Councilman Whalen? Here. Councilman Stanhope? Here. Councilman Romano? Here. Councilwoman Walloway? Here. Supervisor Barron?
Here. Entertain a motion to approve town board meeting minutes of January 13th and January 21st.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Ms. Romano, second by Ms. Walloway. Discussion. Okay, Teresa?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Stanhope?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walloway?
Yes.
Supervisor Barron?
Yes, communications and announcements. Any announcements this evening? Yes, Mrs. Standard.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The Green Committee has recently secured a grant to offer some training on healthy lawns. So there will be a course that will be taught by some organic lawn experts. The organization is called NOFA from Connecticut, and they will be offering a 4-day course. You don't have to attend all, you can attend some sessions, but that will be February 24th through the 27th at the Clifton Park Library. The information is on our website. If you're interested, please visit cliftonpark.org. You can always talk to me after the meeting to learn more about it. And you do have to register, but it should be a really good informational session about how to treat your lawn without using harmful chemicals. And I want to thank Frank Berlin and Dan Mathias. They came to the Green Committee about a year or two ago and really asked us to start working towards becoming pesticide-free and providing education for our residents and landowners throughout our area. And this is really what instigated this program. So thank you for your work and your advocacy with using less chemicals on our lawns. And hopefully this session presented at the end of the month will give some good insight to a lot of people so that we can reduce our dependency on harmful chemicals.
Thank you. And for several years, the town has considered and researched alternatives to the treatments that we had been using over many years. We have found organic options that do work, and we have incorporated those types of treatments into our standard operating procedure for the town when it comes to care of our lawns and parks and natural areas. So that has been a good step along the way. This opportunity is open to anyone. I had someone from a church ask me, can our church attend? Absolutely. Other municipalities will be there. Property owners, lawn care professionals, really anybody that would just like to learn more about organic options in caring for their property. So private owners, public institutions, churches, anybody that has property and wants to learn about care of it. So it's open, it's free. Just need you to go to cliftonpark.org. There's a tab there. Please sign up so we know how many people are coming. Sound good? All right, great. We also have Winterfest coming up in a couple of weeks. We have several contestants signed up. We have a couple of age groups. And no, Frank, you're not eligible. I'm sorry. But, we'll have to get like a master's group or something. But it is for teens and younger. So please sign up. We'd love to have you in the contest. We like to have as many contestants as possible. It's a fun day. It leads right into our soup contest, which is the most popular part of Winterfest. So please join us. So if you do know of a budding star that's just on the cusp, needs that one break to get to stardom, it could happen. Winterfest right here at Clifton Park at the Clifton Park Center. Absolutely. So love to have you. So please sign up your son, daughter, granddaughter, grandson, niece, nephew, whoever it might be. Any other communications? Okay. We'll get to business this evening. As you heard, Teresa's struggling a little bit with her voice. She came up this afternoon and asked me if I could read the resolution, so I'll be doing that tonight. No problem. No problem. So we do have several resolutions for consideration. However, we do have one resolution in particular. What would be the number, the next one? Do you have that? Oh, okay. All right, cool. Thank you. All right, so this is a resolution in honor of Sanford Roth. Resolution number 24 of 2020, a resolution remembering former town councilman Sandy Roth. Whereas on Saturday, January 11th, 2020, Sanford Ira Sandy Roth unexpectedly passed away. And whereas Sandy Roth leaves behind his beloved wife of 57 years, Carol, their children, Gabrielle, Jacqueline, Stephanie, and Brian, their children's spouses, 9 grandchildren, along with numerous cousins, nieces, and nephews. And whereas from 92 to 2009, Sandy Roth gave unreservedly of his time and talent to the town of Clifton Park as a member of the town board, ultimately being recognized for his dedicated service to the community by receiving the key to the town of Clifton Park. And whereas since retiring from the town board, Sandy Roth continued to serve the town and residents as a special assistant to the town supervisor, participating as a member and liaison to various boards and committees, including the Youth Court, Highway, the Environmental Conservation Commission, and the Emergency Services Advisory Board. Whereas Sandy Roth served not only his community but previously his country, serving honorably in the United States Army from 1962 to 1965. And whereas as a member of the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks, Clifton Park Lodge number 2466, Sandy Roth was an unabashed patriot, giving generously of his time, and for which he was chosen Elk of the Year and Officer of the Year. And whereas a devout religious man, Sandy Roth was a longtime member of Congregation Beth Shalom in Clifton Park. And whereas as a New York State EMT with the Ballston Lake Emergency Squad, Sandy Roth served his fellow man in their time of distress and medical need. And whereas right up until the moment he passed, Sandy Roth was continuing to give of himself to others. And whereas the loss of Sandy Roth is a significant loss in the Clifton Park community. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board, on behalf of the residents of the town of Clifton Park, pause in its deliberations to recognize and remember Sanford Ira Sandy Roth on his passing. So I will move that we approve the resolution with a second of the entire town board with their approval. Okay, Teresa?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standart?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ballwood?
Yes.
Supervisor Graham?
Yes, thank you. In recent weeks, recent town board meetings, we've talked about what Sandy has meant to the town of Clifton Park, both town government and many, many entities outside of town government. He was a tireless volunteer in the town of Clifton Park and beyond. And Sandy's passing is certainly a blow to his friends and family here at the town, but to many people throughout our community. And we felt it was important to hear from those people. You've heard from us, and I think it's important that you hear from people in the community that worked with Sandy on a regular basis on volunteer efforts, and they saw the difference that he made in our community each and every day. So we do have a few speakers here this evening, and I'd like to first ask Pat O'Donnell to come up. Pat, as everybody knows, is a recently retired town clerk. Hi Pat, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, everybody.
You can adjust that microphone down a little bit, right? Well, she's not used to being up there.
I'll be under 5 minutes because it's short and sweet, but from the heart. I loved Sandy Roth. He just was one of the most remarkable, giving, caring individuals I've ever known. He offered to work on so many different projects, and he was a member of the Clifton Park Community Chorus, and we will miss him terribly, especially there. He was a very devoted guy to everything that he did, and he did it 100%. On my retirement card that he sent me, he wrote, "I'll be looking for you for hazardous waste day."
Always recruiting.
And I will say at a meeting I was at the Thursday before he passed, he came up to me and said, "I'm going to be co-chairing the golf outing this year." So I said, "Anything you want." So when I heard of his passing actually it was early Sunday morning, I was totally stunned by it, but I knew exactly where he was with all my heart. I have a picture I found at home. I should have brought it, but it was a picture of me sitting at a table. It must have been a luncheon or something. I think it was at the senior center. And I was sitting at a table, and he was handing me a plate of food. To me, that was serving, because that's what Sandy did. He served. Thank you.
Sure did. Thank you, Pat. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. As I mentioned, Sandy did a tremendous amount of work with many organizations throughout town. One such organization was the Clifton Park Elks. Over the last several years, I would say in particular, Sandy spent a tremendous amount of time working at the Elks Lodge in many different capacities. Here to talk a little bit about that is Craig Masterson, who's the current exalted ruler of the Elks, and Dan Mathias, who was the previous exalted ruler. These two gentlemen would know firsthand over the last several years the dedication that Sandy exhibited on behalf of the Elks. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I appreciate it. Sandy Roth was a great American. He's a great American because he cared, and he cared deeply. He cared deeply about his family, about his community, and about his country. I knew him for the last 3 years of his life, and we became really close. We used to work together on the Elks newsletter. The exalted ruler has to produce a series of articles every month. And Sandy was the editor. If you remember, I think Perry White from the days of the Superman novels, he was tough. He was a tough editor, Perry White, but so was Sandy Roth. God forbid you should forget a comma or exclamation point or whatever. And one of my fondest memories of Sandy is Carol and he, Dan Mathias and I, sitting at the kitchen table doing the doggone newsletter that took forever. But we just we ground it out in like an hour maybe. And, you know, he'd be on top of it, counting every last one. I mean, it was heartfelt. You know, Sandy was super competitive. If you don't know that, I think he liked me most because he always beat me. It didn't matter if it was pickleball or golf, or even when we might have a wager together. He always took my money. It didn't seem fair. But above all, he was just such a good guy. I mean, just so volunteer. It took 5 people to replace him at the Elks. There's 5 different things he was doing. That kind of guy. Great American, great family man, great friend. He'll be missed.
Thank you, Kurt. Dan Mathias?
It's an honor to be able to say a few words about our friend Sandy. I first got to know him with the Environmental Conservation Commission and also Household Hazardous Waste Day. And I really appreciated his wise counsel. I think you can appreciate that in a town like Clifton Park that's an attractive community growing, occasionally there might be a development pressure that we'd have to deal with at a meeting. And Sandy always was there encouraging us to do the right thing, try to protect the quality of life in our community. And he was a real supporter of the environment. But it was really through the Elks that I got to know him best. And if you want to understand the essence of our friend, I'd like to share some words from our initiation ritual that we go through, which I think kind of capture the essence of Sandy. And the passage is from the part about brotherly love. And it goes like this. As we therefore have opportunity, let us do good unto others, for we pass this way but once. We cannot retrace our steps nor call back the days that are gone, but the passing moment is ours, long enough to grasp the hand in friendship, to lighten each other's burdens, to bring rest to the weary, and to comfort those who mourn. And I think Sandy epitomized these words in his life. They weren't qualities he adopted because he was an Elk, but they were innate to him. Anyone who knew Sandy saw him demonstrate these qualities and more in his daily life. At the Elks, he would seek out a member who was in rehab or sick. He'd call them up and he'd try to lift their spirits. If there was a group going to the VA hospital to serve ice cream, Sandy organized everything so that our veterans could enjoy a small moment of enjoyment. When we were having trouble finding a storage shed for a veteran, who went out and found the deal with that veteran and got him a storage shed? Sandy Roth, who went from cemetery to cemetery with our good friend Alan Atwell, World War II veteran, putting memorial flags on the deceased veterans' graves. Sandy. Who joined the Elks in presenting dictionaries to the 3rd graders? Sandy. When we needed a volunteer to fill in for an event, who raised his hand first? Sandy. And beyond his service to the Elks, there was no man who was prouder of his family, his children and grandchildren. The void created by someone beloved as Sandy when they're lost is hard to grasp. He was someone we counted on, his laughs, his jokes, his caring nature, and I can still see his smile. And one final thought about Sandy. He loved music. He always seemed to have a song in his heart. He sang with the chorus, and he was a strong supporter of the arts, and he also was a volunteer at the Idol competition. And he was fond of saying he was the only Jewish person to sing High Mass at Siena College. Remarkable. The song may be gone, but his spirit lives on in this room and with all of us in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. The next gentleman who's going to speak is someone that's known Sandy maybe just as long as anybody else in our community, and that's Jim Easton. Jim? Thanks for being here, Jim.
When I was asked to say a few words about my friendship with Sandy, many things came to mind, and obviously I made some notes, okay? We met 30 years ago when I became a member of the Clifton Park Republican Committee. Seeing each other at meetings, working on fundraisers and campaigns, we developed a friendship. In later years, we tried to touch base on the phone or go to lunch every few weeks. I am busy in retirement, but finding him home was unusual, either during the day or evening. Carol, or the answering machine, took many messages. Lunch was nothing fancy. Snyder's at noontime, as he usually would have something going on in the afternoon. I am a fourth generation Clifton Parker, and Clifton Park has always been home. We might talk about the town I remember, or the changes I've seen, or what it was like to attend a one-room schoolhouse. If I wanted an update on what was happening in town, Sandy was the person to ask. We caught up on our families and asked how our health had been. Probably discussed our last doctor's visit or an upcoming one. We talked about sports, the cost of living, Shenandoah, the seniors, national and state politics, current events in the U.S. and the world, the Middle East. Sandy was conservative, patriotic, served in the Army, had a good sense of humor, and enjoyed a joke. He always seemed to be happy, enjoyed his activities. He even enjoyed teaching that safe driver course. And I don't know how he did that, because I know I never could. My wife Irene and I think of his 80th birthday party, with a large number of people sharing his special day as the day he was especially happy. Sandy's commitment to the community was remarkable. He truly cared about town government, the organizations, and the people in Clifton Park. But what I think of most was this love of family. Carol, their children, and their families. At his wake, his grandchildren introduced themselves, shook hands, mentioned who their mother or father was, and where they were living. It's easy to see why he was so proud of them. Many times on the phone, he would say, "We're very busy with family, but I'll leave myself a note to call you for lunch when things slow down." Sandy was a special friend, and this has been a shock. Between ourselves, Irene and I called him the Energizer Bunny, because he just kept going and going and going. I was honored to be one of Sandy's pallbearers, and I miss him already.
Thank you, Jim, very much. I appreciate that. Our next speaker is a gentleman who knew Sandy very well over the years. Somebody that needs no introduction, but somebody that continuously represents Clifton Park and his district with class and fervor. And I want to welcome Senator Jim Tedisco. Sir?
Got to apologize for being a little bit late today. We just got out of session over there, but you're a lot safer when we're out of session, and I'm here, I think, and the rest of the guys. But I haven't heard a lot. I really enjoyed what I did here when I got here. But like most of you, I counted Sandy as a friend, and I sincerely enjoyed interacting with him, talking with him, being involved in a whole variety of programs and issues which we both worked at, especially in our world, the government. He helped us be a part of here, the Republican Party. And I was thinking on the way over, if I had to, in the best way, describe what Sandy Roth was all about, I'd say if in the dictionary there was a definition of community servant, you should see a picture of Sandy Roth right next to that. I don't know all the activities he was in, but I know he was in a tremendous number of it. I'm a member of the Elks, the work you point out with the Elks. EMT, I believe he was an EMT at one time. But being a part of this government, on the council, look, I wouldn't want to have these guys' jobs back for $1 million. I was a city councilman. It's the toughest job in the world because they're right on the front line, and Sandy did that job. He was willing to be right on the front line where the people are, where they're going to come up and they're going to say, I need that stop sign on my road. I had an experience with that, and I told you, when I first got elected, I was one day on the job. It was a Saturday morning. A fellow in my neighborhood comes in the morning and says, we got a crosswalk here with 2 roads. It's very, very dangerous. We need a stop sign. I was mowing my lawn, in fact, in the morning. I'll take a look at that, sir. I finished up. It was about 3 o'clock. My doorbell rings. I open the door. He goes, where's that stop sign, Councilman? That's what Sandy Roth was a part of over here. That's the type of concern and need and activity, and I understand that. We have to serve, and he was a great representative when he did that. And here's a man who left a tremendous legacy. I don't know about the competition. Every time I talk to Sandy, he had tremendous amount of humility. Like all these programs he was involved with, he always gave everybody else all the credit, and he was always doing a tremendous amount of work. Now, the reason why I know that is because I'd go to a tremendous amount of functions, and he'd be at a lot of those functions with us. The one that would happen every single year, and he'd see me at one of the functions before it took place, it was the Clifton Park Rally fundraiser for the elections coming up. But I'd see him at another event. He was the only person that I loved when he came up to me and asked for money. Because what he would ask for is $100 for a full-page ad in the booklet to raise money for the Clifton Park Rally over there to help the candidates. It was only $100. Now, to me, that was a tremendous discount because Barrett asked for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay? And so, and really, I didn't run into the men's room or hide. I love talking with him, even when I know you're going to get that $100, Sandy. But it all went for the causes he believed in and cared for. And when he cared about something, or somebody needed something, he seemed always to be there for them. And I know he loved his family. I saw the grandchildren who were there, and all of his loved ones. And he will be sorely, sorely missed. There's a big vacuum and a big void there. But I guess I'd define him as the public servant's public servant. He had an extended family that went by the tremendous love he had for his immediate family to the entire community. And what a blessing that we have him, and we only pray to God that we would have had him a bit longer, but may God bless him and hold him in his arms. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator. One of the most touching parts of the services was the grandchildren, and talking about Sandy, and as somebody mentioned, they were so respectful and well-spoken, just tremendous kids. And if you knew Sandy's daughters that are here this evening, you would know why. So we're going to hear from Sandy's family now. First, we'll hear from Stephanie Pelkey. Stephanie, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Stephanie Pelkey, third daughter of Sandy and Carol. How can I sum up in a few minutes the man that has inspired me for the over 50 years I have been on this earth? Let me start by saying that of all the wonderful qualities my father passed down to me, public speaking was not one of them. Many of you in this room may have had the pleasure of working or volunteering with him in some form or another throughout the last 30 years of his life, but for those of you that didn't, you don't know what you were missing. Even though my dad received many accolades and awards over the years for his many accomplishments, he was so humble about it. There have been countless people that have come up to me that have said, "I didn't even know your dad did all that." As a father, while we were growing up, our dad was strict and yet loving. He instilled in all of his children a set of values. He taught us to have a strong work ethic. I remember tasks as a child, you know, the ones that neither of my children do today. It was either mowing the lawn, raking all the leaves, shoveling the driveway, or sweeping the garage. And boy, was he a perfectionist, hence so many awards. I remember him clearly saying, "If you're going to do a job, do it right the first time." Then he would take the broom out of my hands and re-sweep what I thought I had already swept. I know now that all along the way, he was teaching us valuable lessons. My dad loved his wife, Carol, his 4 children, his 9 grandchildren, and his brand new 12-week-old puppy, Jackson, with all of his being. He was an unbelievable man that put family above all else. Although his children lived in 4 different places, he would make time to clear his busy schedule and come visit us all for weeks at a time. My parents would love to come to Boston to attend our awesome Super Bowl parties. They would respectfully sit there as we all rooted for the New England Patriots year after year. Then finally, in 2012, his beloved New York Giants beat them in a 17-14 victory. He was so happy and quietly gloated in a nice sort of way. He and my mother loved to come to Cape Cod with us in the summer. You would often find him reading a book. He was an avid reader and loved mysteries. Or he would be watching an old Western movie and eventually fall asleep on the couch at decibel level 55. He loved going to the beach where we would converse about life, and he really enjoyed playing cards and games with my family. We would sit there and laugh for hours. As we look back on Dad's life, we find comfort in knowing he was very fulfilled. We know how much satisfaction he had by being a contributing member of his community. He loved the people he met, and he enjoyed the work he did. So if there's anything you can take away from this, he would want you to continue to stay involved, support your community, continue to make progress, and live your best life. Thank you.
Thank you. And he did like the road trips, right? Massachusetts, Maryland, Buffalo, and Jackie Timpanero and her family right here in Clifton Park. So we didn't have to go as far.
My sister and I did not collaborate. So good evening. As Supervisor Barrett said, I'm Jackie Timpanero, and I'm the second oldest to Sandy and Carol. Tonight we've heard so many wonderful things about our dad and his devotion to the people in town of Clifton Park, the Elks Lodge, and his many other causes, all of which we admire and are so very proud. However, I thought tonight I would give a different perspective, one of a daughter talking about her father and our family. My parents met in 1959 at a bar in Albany. Dad was bartending and Mom was there on a date with someone else, and she asked him to introduce her to the waiter. This was the beginning of my parents' 60-year journey together. Though my dad was an only child, his mother was one of 6 children and his father was one of 8. Family was everywhere, next door, across the street, and just a few blocks over. Dad was the oldest of all the cousins and became the leader, the go-to guy, the fixer. Family came first. My dad had such an affection for music. He played the clarinet and saxophone in his high school orchestra, and how he loved to sing. When he was in college attending Siena, he was quite proud of the fact that he was the only Jewish student asked to sing at the Christmas midnight mass service. I guess we all know that. He was very proud of that. I also have vague memories from my childhood of attending temple in downtown Albany during the Jewish holidays, and he would be up on the bema chanting. My parents got married at City Hall on August 3rd, 1962, and celebrated 57 years together last August. What some of you may not realize is that theirs was an interfaith marriage. Dad was raised Jewish and Mom was raised Catholic. I tell you this because in the 1960s, a mixed marriage or mixed marriages were not as widely accepted as they are today. They told their parents the date, the time, and the place, and hoped for the best. My grandparents did not disappoint. I tell you this because it demonstrates the importance of family, what it meant to my mom and dad, and how they raised us to love and appreciate each other. Again, family came first. In 1972, our brother Brian was born. I remember Mom and Dad taking us to Nana and Papa Roth's house on Pinehurst Avenue in Albany very early in the morning of May 28th. We ran into their bedroom and woke them up telling them, "It's time." They asked, "Time for what?" And we explained, "It's time for the baby." It was a happy day. Don't get me wrong, Mom and Dad loved their 3 daughters, but finally a son. Someone to carry on the Roth name. In 1973, with 4 children and only a 3-bedroom house, we made the move to Clifton Park. I was 6 going on 7, and I won't tell you how old I am now. When we moved in, Dad went to work every day, and Mom stayed home to care for the children, but they were both involved in our lives. Dad took us to Indian Princesses, and then later coached us in Miss Shen softball. He always conveyed to us the importance of education and instilled in us a work ethic that we can only hope we passed on to our own children. The conversation was always when you go to college, not if you go to college. He was strict with us growing up, chores and homework before fun, but that was okay as it made the fun even more rewarding. He is what I would call firm but fair. Repeated offenses of not remembering to turn off the basement light resulted in sitting at the kitchen table and writing out 50 times, "I remember to turn off the basement light." To this day, I don't think I've ever forgotten to turn off the basement light in my parents' house. Mom and Dad were there for every event in our lives, the good and the not so good. Family was important, and despite the miles between them and my siblings, they always made time to visit. Mom and Dad didn't vacation in Europe and the Caribbean. They vacationed in Maryland, Massachusetts, and Buffalo. I am fortunate to be local, so we were able to go out to dinner, have breakfast at the Elks, or even just hang out at the house. Then there were the big family vacations in the Outer Banks and more recently Woodloch and the Poconos that Mom and Dad generously treated the whole family to. Each morning, 18 of us would head to the dining room for breakfast and then later for dinner. We tested our knowledge of trivia, participated in cornhole tournaments, scavenger hunts, and even had enough people to have our own paintball match. Lots of laughter and more memories made. Dad lived a blessed life, surrounded by lots of loving family and countless friends. And he lived a full life. In addition to the love of his children and sons-in-law, he got to see all of his grandchildren grow to teenagers and young adults, and he was able to develop real relationships with all of them. And while surely we know he was looking forward to many more joyful events with his family, all of his grandchildren got to know him well, learn from his example, and be left with warm and wonderful memories of their papa. And of course, he was blessed to have our wonderful mother Carol as a spouse and life partner. He would tell me that they were a team, they balanced each other, and that he never could have accomplished all he had without her. Someone told me grief is the price you pay for love, and my father was loved. Dad's life was a life lived well. He left his mark in some way on all of us, and he will truly be missed. Thank you.
I want to thank Councilman Romano, who vacated the chair at the far end of the table, that's where Sandy was stationed for almost 2 decades. So nice gesture. Thank you, Jim. We have something for you. We wanted to give you each a framed copy of the resolution that we passed this evening as a town board. And as much as we want to take this opportunity to remember and thank Sandy, when it comes to public service and volunteering as much as he did, you need support of the family. Because if the family doesn't support you, there's very little that you're able to do. So the fact that the entire family always supported everything he did for the town of Clifton Park and the organizations throughout the town, that was in big part to your support as well, so thank you.
Thank you.
Also have something else for you here too, and
Mercy, mercy.
just some beautiful arrangements
Thank you.
for you.
Oh, beautiful, thank you.
Jackie and Stephanie as well. And,
Thank you.
so we thank you so much for being here and
It was an honor.
helping us remember Sandy on this very special occasion.
Thank you.
You know, grief and loss is something we all have to deal with.
Absolutely.
But I know when you think back to everything Sandy accomplished and everything he did, he was always doing, I think, basically what he wanted to do, and that was to serve the town and many people in it.
That was his new life after he retired
Right?
from work.
Right. Yeah, once he retired, he was able to do more of what he wanted to do.
Right.
And made so many great friends along the way.
All new friends.
Yeah.
Along the way.
So God bless you and thank you very much.
Again.
So I do want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I want to thank all the speakers for sharing your perspective on what Sandy meant to your organization, you personally, and the town as a whole. So I want to thank you all for coming here and doing that very much.
Thank you again.
Very much.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, Carol. Thanks, Brother Reese.
Thank you. All of you.
Thanks.
Good job.
Okay. We do have several resolutions for consideration this evening, and I'll read through these right now. First is resolution number 25 of 2020, a resolution to issue a negative declaration pursuant to seeker and to adopt the town center Park master plan. Whereas the town board and planning department conducted a comprehensive 12-month public planning and design process in 2019 to solicit public input and to engage stakeholders, neighbors, and residents in the identification and synthesis of public values and prioritization of concepts for the 37.59 acre property. And whereas being planning as the town's consultant prepared the town center park master plan based on the design process and presented it to the town board on December 9, 2019 at a public presentation. And whereas the town board proposes to adopt the town center park master plan to guide the management of and future improvements to the park, to seek grants, commit town resources as available, including appropriations authorized by the town board, workforce, labor, and equipment to implement the plan over time, and to construct amenities to the park in accordance with any required permits. And whereas The planning staff and consultants recommend classifying adoption of the Town Center Park Master Plan as an unlisted action pursuant to seeker regulations. And whereas the action requires that an environmental review be conducted pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law. Whereas as environmental assessment form has been completed by the planning staff and there are no other involved agencies identified for the preparation and subsequent adoption of the Parks Master Plan, now therefore be it resolved that after careful consideration, analysis, and review, the Town Board adopts the EAF as prepared by planning staff and determines that the action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment as set forth in the environmental assessment form, and that a determination of non-significance, which is a negative declaration, shall be adopted, and that an environmental impact statement will not be required. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to file the negative declaration and any appropriate notices of this determination in accordance with 6 New York CRR Part 617. Resolved that the Town Center Park Master Plan is hereby adopted by the Town of Clifton Park to guide future improvements to the park, and be it further resolved that the Park Master Plan is available in the Town Clerk's office for review during all normal business hours. Resolution number 26 of 2020, a resolution appointing Charles Daniel Keegan as chairperson of the Board of Assessment Review. Whereas the Town Board wishes to appoint Charles Daniel Keegan of 6 Stony Heights Court, Clifton Park, as chairperson of the Board of Assessment Review, now therefore be it resolved that Charles Daniel Keegan, Clifton Park, is hereby appointed chairperson of the Board of Assessment Review with a term to expire on December 31st, 2020. Resolution number 27 of 2020, a resolution increasing trips and tours, parks and recreation revenues and expenditures by $7,550 for a one-day trip to Yankee Stadium on May 8, 2020. Whereas the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs has offered a one-day trip to Yankee Stadium for a Yankees versus Red Sox baseball game on May 8, 2020. And whereas Parks and Recreation will collect fees from participants for the one-day bus trip, now therefore be it resolved that 2020 trip revenues is hereby increased by $7,500, and general fund expenditures is hereby increased by $7,500. Is that supposed to be $7,550?
So I need to go run and chat.
All right, why don't you run and check?
I'll go chat.
Resolution number 28, a resolution authorizing the town board to accept a quote and implementation from Business Automation Services for an online renewal dog licensing portal system. Whereas the town would like to provide town residents the option of renewing dog licenses online, and whereas Business Automation Services provides and maintains software for the town's computer systems and online services, and has submitted a quote for online services related to providing an online capability for dog license applications and renewals. And whereas customers would incur a convenience fee of $1.75 that will be paid for the service in addition to the dog license fee. And whereas the online dog portal integrates seamlessly with the town clerk's licensing system and allows residents to quickly access their current license information and renew expiring licenses using any device connected to the internet. And whereas this feature will be available to residents 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And whereas this portal will provide current dog information and rabies validation through a convenient and secure site, and will automatically sync with the town clerk system for easy balancing of reports. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board accepts the BAS quote of $950 for the first year cost and implementation of an online portal for reviewing and renewing dog licenses to be paid from the town clerk computer line, and be it further resolved that the town clerk is authorized to sign the attached quote for software services. Resolution number 29 of 2020. A resolution waiving the local marriage license fee for active duty service members of the armed forces. Whereas on August 20, 2019, State Senate Bill 3756 was enacted eliminating the state portion of marriage license fees formerly chargeable to applicants where at least one of the parties to the application is a member of the United States Armed Services on active duty. And whereas the amendment also authorizes cities and towns issuing such licenses to waive local fees where at least one party to the application is an active duty service member, and whereas the town wishes to support and show our appreciation to all active duty military members, and whereas currently $32 is the charge for a marriage license, local fees included are $9.50. Now therefore be it resolved that the current local fee of $9.50 for active duty military members of the armed forces be waived. Resolution number 30 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance of 100% of the construction inspection phase and ultimate local commitment for federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible costs, the other state aid costs of this transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore. Whereas a project for the Siddeley Road and Traffic Signal Improvements Project, Town of Clifton Park, Saratoga County, is eligible for funding under Title 23 U.S. Code as amended that calls for the apportionment of the cost of such program to be borne at the ratio of 80% federal funds and 20% non-federal funds. And whereas the Town Board of Clifton Park desires to advance the project by making a commitment of 100% of the non-federal share of the costs of design and our right-of-way acquisition and incidentals and construction, now therefore the Town Board duly convened does hereby resolve that the Town Board hereby approves the above subject project, and it is hereby further resolved that the Town Board hereby authorizes the payment in the first instance 100% of the federal and non-federal share of the cost of work for the project or portions thereof. And it is further resolved that the sum of $250,829 has previously been appropriated from Siddeley Road capital improvements and made available to cover the cost of the design and right-of-way acquisition and incidentals phase of the project, and it is further resolved that the additional sum of $1,929,339 is hereby appropriated from Siddeley Capital Improvements and made available to cover the cost of participation in the construction inspection phases of the project, and it is further resolved that in the event the full federal and non-federal share of the cost of the project exceeds the amount appropriated above, the Town Board of the Town of Clifton Park shall convene as soon as possible to appropriate said excess amount immediately upon the notification by the New York State Department of Transportation thereof. And it is further resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to execute all necessary agreements, certifications, or reimbursement requests for federal aid and or Marchicelli program aid on behalf of the Town of Clifton Park with the New York State Department of Transportation in connection with the advancement or approval of the project and providing for the administration of the project and the municipality's first instant funding of project costs and permanent funding of the local share of federal aid and state aid eligible project costs and all project costs within appropriations, therefore, that are not so eligible. And it is further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to increase capital projects fund, Siddeley and Wooden Road traffic improvements established by Resolution 176 of 2017 by $1,929,339 to be made available for funding construction and inspection costs in the first instance. Resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be filed with the New York State Commissioner of Transportation by attaching it to any necessary agreement in connection with the project, and it is therefore resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Are there any questions on the resolution? Okay. We'll go through the headings of each, and then we'll discuss. Do you want to read?
Resolution number 25 of 2020, a resolution to issue a negative declaration pursuant to SECR and to adopt the Town Center Park Master Plan. So moved.
Moved by Mr. Standard, second by Mr. Whalen. It's been a long process to get to this point, long and satisfying process, I would say. We had upon purchasing the property from the school district, we immediately embarked on a comprehensive public planning process that would include engaging a consultant. We would have a number of public meetings throughout the planning process. We would make sure that residents were informed of our progress as we proceeded. And throughout, we were very fortunate to have a great deal of participation from many interested Clifton Park residents. And we want to thank you for that, because without that participation, the process is not going to be successful. So thankfully we had that interest and participation. So again, thank you to everybody that attended meetings, that filled out questionnaires, that submitted opinions during the workshops and charrettes, and attended the public hearing. Every part of the process was just very rewarding and useful and valuable. And so your input is crucial to the process. So that leads us to where we are today. And since we unveiled the final plan, which those of you that did go to most or many of the public meetings had an idea of what that plan would entail, as you saw the plan progress over time. And when we unveiled the plan here at town board meeting that night and since, the response has been very positive. So we will be moving forward with always keeping in mind that there's not only options before us now with the property, but there's also options that will become available in the future. Some of that is a matter of timing. And some of those options, will be a matter of timing. Some will be us aggressively pursuing a strategy to encourage some of those options becoming a reality. So that's true of really any project of this type. And we just want to make sure that the final product at the end of the day is something that the residents of Clifton Park continue to support, because this is your park, and we know many people are using the property since the town purchased it, and we want to make sure that we actively engage more people in the use of the property now and in the future. You do that through improved access, and that'll be certainly first and foremost on our minds as we move forward with physical improvements to the property. So again, thank you to everybody that's been involved. I want to thank our planning staff. John, is there anything that I left out that we should add there?
No.
We've certainly talked about this.
Yeah, the
But,
presentation.
you know what I love it when you read somewhere that there wasn't much comment on a project that the town is doing. We talk about these things for years. We have all these public meetings. We've talked ad nauseum here at town board meetings, and then we get to this stage at the end, and there's really not much left to say. And then you got to read how, well, there really wasn't much in the way of comment. Well, maybe those people should be watching a little more over the previous few years. But anyway, I digress.
I have nothing to add.
All right, go ahead. Well, I'll make sure it's read in there. All right, well, I'm going to put that on social media. There was very little, if any, discussion from our planning department, in particular, might I add. Thanks. All right, so any other comments from the board at this point? I want to, last but not least, thank the town board for all of their input and discussion that we've had at town board meetings and all of these public meetings through the process. Appreciate your support, assistance, ideas, opinions, that because the town board was obviously very important to this, not only acquiring the park property, but leading us to this final plan. So, thank you very much. All right. With that.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Oliver?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 26 of 2020, a resolution appointing Charles Daniel Keegan as chairperson of the Board of Assessment Review.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Ms. Wallowit. Mr. Keegan has been a valued member of the Board of Assessment Review for a number of years and has accepted the role of chair of that august body. I do want to thank, and I haven't been able to get in touch with him yet, but Bill Sekelic. He was the chairman of the Board of Assessment for over 40 years. So he, that's not always an easy board to lead, even though they generally work in the spring time frame only, and through grievance day and everything. It's a difficult job. I was on the Board of Review many years ago, and it is. It's one of the tougher boards, although it's kind of an unsung board, and what they do isn't talked about much because as a town board, we need to be separate from the assessment process. So I do want to thank Bill. I'd like to get Bill at a meeting here if I can to honor him publicly for those decades of service to the Board of Assessment. And we thank Dan for stepping forward to take over as chair. Any discussion? Okay.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Oliver?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 27 of 2020, a resolution increasing trips and tours in parks and recreation revenues and expenditures by $7,550 for a one-day trip to Yankee Stadium on May 8, 2020.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Ms. Wallowit, second by Mrs. Standard. So what is it?
The correct amount is what's in the heading, the 75.
All right, so let's say I think a small enough change that just make sure that they match, the amounts match. All right, very good. So tell us about the trip and how much the Red Sox will win by. Oh, did I say that out loud?
I was going to ask if I could wear my socks hat. Can I get on the bus if I have on my
Well, you get on the bus, you might not make it back, but you can get on the bus.
Well, being a lifelong Red Sox fan myself, I have to say, though, it was pretty exciting to get a call from the New York Yankee team. Thought it was pretty exciting. And they were reaching out to us. I don't know how many other communities they were. They must have heard there's a lot of Yankee fans in town. But we're going to have a bus. There's 56 seats. And we have the tickets that we purchased. We got a good rate for each of the seats. We are at the field level section. And it's going to come with a meal, hot dog and a drink, and fun on the bus. We're kind of thinking, one side Yankee fans, one side Red Sox fans.
No kegs on the bus.
No kegs on the bus, definitely. But I think it's going to be a fun trip. We're really excited. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback when we were talking about it. And so all of the money that we will be paying out for this will be coming in from people buying the tickets. So there won't be anything, whatever's...
All right, so May 8th. Hopefully it'll be a nice spring day, nice summer day in Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Nice. Very good. They probably reached out to you because they're having a hard time selling tickets. Right, Jeff?
You got it.
Okay.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ballmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Barron?
Yes.
Resolution number 28 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the town board to accept a quote and implementation from Business Automation Systems for a 900-year-old dog portal system.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Ms. Wallerman. Do you want to talk about this one, Teresa?
We've had a lot of people, residents in the past, who have requested online paying. I mean, most of the time it's $3.50 that they're paying, and they would appreciate this convenience for them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we continue over the years to make our services and registration available online for all sorts of different programs. So this is one more program that'll be online and a little more convenient for folks. Very good. Okay. Any questions for Teresa? Okay.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ballmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Barron?
Yes.
Resolution number 29, 2020, a resolution waiving the local marriage fee for active duty military members of the armed forces.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Whalen, second by Mrs. Standard, and, this is not a huge money saver, but I think it's less about the money and just more about appreciation. So the $9.50 savings for active military members, our bill will follow the State Senate Bill 3756 as far as eligibility. And, we're proud to show our support.
Yeah, the $22.50 is that the state, they've already waived their fee.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to waive our fees.
Yeah, definitely. All right, very good. We're making it easy to tie the knot. That much easier. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, all right. Less expensive, not easier. Good catch, Mr. Romano. Okay.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ballmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Barron?
Yes.
Resolution number 30 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance of 100% of the construction inspection phase, and ultimate local commitment for federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible costs and other state aid costs of this transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Whalen. So, we're continuing to do what we need to do to get this project to the finish line. This is the Siddeley Road Traffic Signal Improvement Project, as we've discussed many, many times here at town board meetings and passed a whole bunch of resolutions. So there will be, not to go through the whole project again, but in simple terms, there will be improvements to the Siddeley Wooden intersection as well as the Siddeley Crossings Boulevard intersection, new traffic lights at each intersection, and the sidewalk will be extended from where it ends now at the NYOH building. So some great improvements for traffic flow, pedestrians, and in that area. So we're very excited that we're at the point where the project will get done in 2020. Very pleased to be at this juncture. John, can you just once again just go through the funding part of it?
Sure. Basically, it's the same resolution that we did at the previous town board meeting, except on the fourth resolve down. There was a concern by DOT that the Federal Highway Administration would like the town to acknowledge the total project cost, which was previously discussed, of $1.929 million. So that was added to the resolution. The match commitment of $253,829 has stayed the same. That's going to be split between the two towns.
Right. The towns of Clifton Park and Half Moon.
Yes, and the project did go out to bid, even though Federal Highway wanted to see this paragraph added. They knew it was more of a administrative act and had no issues with us going out to bid. So it's now advertised for bidding. The clerk has the bid packages, and we're awaiting contractors to pick up, bid packets and put a bid so we can get to construction shortly.
Good project.
Yes.
Good time of year to bid it, too. So let's hope for a good price. The town, Clifton Park, also has funds that were voluntarily provided to the town for traffic improvements in that area with some projects. So we do have money set aside for our share. Okay, very good. Teresa?
Councilman Wyland?
Yes.
Councilwoman Stanback?
Yes.
Councilman Bravado?
Yes.
Councilwoman Balowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barron?
Yes. Any other business to come before the board this evening? Okay, seeing none. I just saw Bill Connor, who was very instrumental in this process of acquiring the Shen property, and was an active participant, I guess I could say, throughout the process. You just came in with a big board. Do you have something for us?
I don't mean to make you nervous, but if
Yeah, sure, come on up.
I'd like to make a public comment about the process.
Oh, sure. You know what we did? We took out, is that something you want to show us?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, because to make room, we took this out. I don't know if this is going to help. This is like the not so common players, you know, and the props. I don't know if this will help you. Hey.
This is not very involved. It's just to share, just to remind you of what you've done here. These are some photos that were taken 2 years ago when the school was embarking on selling the property to a developer, and there were many people concerned about the value that was in that property and what it could mean in its location for the town long term. So these were put together back then and shown to the school board and asked them to reconsider their course. So I just wanted to, this is a historic point that we've all reached here, and for the last 4 or 5 decades, people have been wondering about what to do with that area of town, and many times the fate of it is coming back and forth. And I think it took a lot of courage on part of this board to step forward and see that opportunity and come forth and say, yes, you can step in and give some guidance and some management, some organization to this process and capture this as a public asset and make it available for the public. I really think that the board should be commended for that courage. And secondly, he mentioned the process. And one of the things that you could see in these multiple meetings was you had some very talented consultants that you took care to select. But that group also came to the table with certain ideas about, gee, there's this large, undeveloped area in the center of this town, and we want to make a town center in this area. What should happen? So they had some, you could tell, preconceived ideas about what maybe they would do if left to their own devices. And you could see that they were listening because over time, the process, bringing people to them in multiple venues, caused them to rethink their initial thoughts and reconsider it. So, they would put up, gee, this is what we surveyed people, and we showed them this, but gee, they kept going back to that. And what they kept going back to were images that were very, very similar to what's there today. Even to the point where the sugar maples there in the fall there along Maxwell Road, they were observant enough to tag those, flag those, and put them in the report to say that we should continue to have those particular trees, for instance, there. And the areas that are really most lush and most attractive are in that area of the 15 acres that they identify to be preserved. So they learned from the land, they learned from the people, and they changed their viewpoint. And I think we're all going to benefit from that process. So I just wanted to remark and thank you all for your courage and your leadership. And secondly, thanks for that process, because the results are different because of it, and better. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Bill. We appreciate your help through the process and your commitment in so many ways to the community as well. Really appreciate it. And those are beautiful pictures. Are those ours?
You may have them, yes.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you very much.
They serve their purpose. So.
Well, we'll certainly put those to good use. All right. Thank you very much. So, Bill kicked off public privilege. If there's anybody else that would like to speak on a town matter, please raise your hand. We'll ask that you come forward, state your name and address for the record. Hi, Darlene. How are you?
Good.
Darlene is a fixture up at our county meetings.
Yes, my name's Darlene.
And she lives in Saratoga, right?
Yes.
Right.
And I did want to say, I don't even know how many in the past 2 months, well, since the beginning of this year, how many meetings like this I've attended. But you can always ask Bill for more information. I'm really saddened that I did not get to meet Sandy Roth. I mean, I'm just like completely saddened that I did not get to meet him. I did want to say to the town, and people probably think I'm crazy. I already know I'm crazy.
No.
But I have come between town of Clifton Park and Half Moon last year. I walked from Saratoga Springs all the way down here 6 different times. And me doing that, it's totally worth it. And sorry if anybody's from somewhere else, including people in my city. If I had to take a vacation anywhere in the United States, and it was like all paid for, like a vacation, you would probably think, like, what the heck would you want to go here? But I would actually want to take a vacation down here because it's got a lot of, I love small businesses. They rock totally.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that there's a lot of different environmental aspects of it. I would love to see if there was affordable housing, because if there was, I'd be the first person to move down here. And I really am happy that between the federal government, the state, and town of Half Moon, and more importantly, town of Clifton Park, that you guys are working on Sitterly Road. I swear, between exits 13 and Route 9 and walking on Sitterly Road, I don't know which one's even scarier, because I came down here to show my Halloween costume, cup of Death Wish coffee, the egg on my head from down in Albany, a piece of New York strip steak, to some businesses and people that wanted to see it. But I chose to walk down Sitterly Road versus going down 146, and just that bridge scared the heck out of me. I've spoken with a couple of people I personally know from New York State DOT, and I'm really excited that you guys are doing that. And I would like to see better public transportation options. So whether you guys up at the board or any of you guys listening or anybody at home, please, make sure that you try to contact the board and they'll contact me, because public transportation, I think, is really key, because as far as environmental impacts, like the green lawn program. If people are, more than one person is in a vehicle, it's a lot safer, and it'll make my life a lot easier too, by the way. I mean, I love walking, but walking 18 miles, doing that constantly can
Yeah, that's a little
become
much.
tough. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody.
You're not crazy, you're just dedicated. And the day that I saw you at the Clifton Park Fire Department pancake breakfast, and it was pouring outside, and you said you had walked here, so after I castigated you for doing that, not that we don't want to see you, but it's a little much, so I made sure she had a ride back. So, yeah. That was not a good day to be walking anywhere. But no, thanks for coming. It's great to see you. Now, Darlene did say at a County Board of Supervisors meeting that if she could vacation one place, it would be Clifton Park. You can imagine how popular that was with my colleagues, because they're just staunch supporters of Clifton Park across the board up there, as you know. I mean, you just can't say enough good things about it. So that was just very satisfying in many ways for me, Bill.
I don't give people anything, you gotta earn it, so.
That's right. And Darlene once said to me, "Is this heaven?" I said, "No, it's Clifton Park." So, right?
It'd make a good shirt.
Yeah. So, so it's great that. So, how are you getting back?
I can't say I'm not allowed to.
What do you mean you can't say? All right, I'll ask you after.
4 letters, that's it.
We don't use 4-letter words here.
Not that kind. Not that kind.
Unless it's like path or something like that. Like a walking path.
Well, the W's part of it, but.
All right, well, I'll ask you after.
I was gonna say,
But thanks for coming. Appreciate it. All right.
motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilman Sandbar?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ball?
Yes.
Supervisor Dunn?
Yes. Thank you.